Did you know that there are almost 12 million prisoners in the world? And that you're 50% more likely to die if you're in prison than in other communities? In the US, some prisons have more prisoners than beds. Nobody is safe in prison, especially if you're at the top of the most wanted list. When you're locked up, your life turns into a living hell. And today, we're sentencing you to some of the most dangerous prisons in the world. You won't believe the lack of privacy, the dangers you'll face, and what it takes to escape. How many people go insane in solitary confinement? Where is the most dangerous prison in the world? And how can you survive a prison run the first 24 hours in prison? Every year in the United States, over 600,000 people enter prison gates, but about 10.6 million people go to jail each year. And prisons are not like country clubs. The average size of a US prison cell is roughly 4.5 square meters. Depending on the prison you're in, on an average day, you are in your cell for about 23 hours a day. And with COVID-19, this has been severely enforced. Will you have any privacy? Should you be scared of the showers? And how should you greet your cellmate? A soon-to-be prisoner should educate themselves by reading good quality prison preparation books and talk to a former inmate who has done substantial time both in the facility you will be in and at the same security level. Also, being physically fit can help set you up for success upon arriving at the prison. So, now that you're here, this is what your first 24 hours will be like and how to survive them. Step 1, strict search. At 8 a.m., your first stop is at receiving and discharge, also known as R&D. This process can take up to 8 hours. The staff will review whatever you've brought with you to determine what items you can keep with you and what will have to go. You will receive a set of prison clothes and be photographed and fingerprinted. You'll get an identification card, and on your first day, you will strip in front of guards. This means you must take all your clothes off. A guard runs their fingers through your hair and checks your mouth and beneath your tongue. The guard can ask you to squat and cough and raise your arms. This ensures no contraband is smuggled into the prison. By 4 p.m., you will hopefully have completed the intake process and be ready to meet your cellmate. Before leaving R&D, you will receive a bedroll, which consists of sheets, a blanket, hygiene items, a towel, shoes, and perhaps a pillowcase. Step 2, meet your cellmate. Walking into a prison housing unit for the first time can be one of the most unsettling aspects of prison for new inmates. Most federal prisons have 2 prisoners per cell, whom you meet on your first day. You will meet a guard who will point you to where you will go. And while you do that, everyone is watching, trying to figure out who the new prisoner is and where they're going to fit in. Once you get to your cell, you should knock on the door and introduce yourself firmly and respectfully, and follow the suggestions and directions of your more experienced cellmate. If your new cellmate wants nothing to do with you, then you'll need to look for support elsewhere. According to psychologist Dr. Jamie Blandino, a lot of people in prison have no choice but to simply figure out a way to survive, so they revert to primitive ways of relating. Try to find connections with people who have similar cultural, racial, or religious backgrounds as you. It might go against your morals, but in prison, finding a tribe could be the key to your survival. Step 3, shower time. By 6 p.m., you will be ready for your first shower. While prison movies and television shows tend to portray shower rooms as hotbeds of violence and assault, often this is not the case. In fact, you could be putting yourself in more danger by avoiding showers. In prison, keeping clean is a necessity, not a luxury, because you don't want to upset anyone with your body odor, since you'll be spending so much time with your fellow inmates in shared spaces. A strong body odor is an easy way to put a target on your back. Step 4, good toilet etiquette. If you're housed in a cell, it is best to use the restroom when your cellmate is not present. In emergencies, It's fine to use the bathroom with a cellmate present. Just notify them first and hang the sheet up for privacy if possible. If it's your cellmate who needs to do their business, do whatever you can to give them privacy. Look towards the wall, because making any sort of eye contact with them is an easy way to sour the relationship and potentially invite violence. Step 5, on your first meal. As a prisoner, you don't have a choice about the food you're served. Inmates assigned to the food service will issue a tray to you and place the same portions on every tray. Inmates cannot eat 2 servings of the same meal, as most federal prisons now have ID card scanners in place to ensure that each prisoner only eats once. If you're caught going through the line twice, you run the risk of being issued an incident report for stealing. Step 6, lights out. This is your chance to process your first day in prison. As career criminal Cody Lachi said, "I just sat down on my bed. I was stressed like you wouldn't believe. There was no way I was going to sleep. My whole world had just fallen apart. It was just me, my thoughts, and silence. It was eerie. I was tossing and turning, but there was no way I was getting my head down. Literally, my whole life was flashing before me. I didn't sleep. I couldn't sleep." Moving around inmates who've committed unthinkable crimes, you might even have to share your cell with a convicted serial killer. The living conditions of these prisons are so harsh, you wouldn't wish them on your worst enemy. Think of Tadmor Prison in Syria, where in 1980, soldiers were ordered to kill every prisoner on sight. Yikes. In that year, over 1,000 prisoners were murdered. Or Rikers Island Prison in the United States, infamous for its many stabbings, assaults, and murders within the building. In this next part, we're going to teach you how to avoid getting into trouble and how to choose your prison crew wisely. Find out why joining a prison gang might not be the best idea. The time has come. It's Judgment Day, and your fate has been decided. It's time to do time. You're going to the Vic House, Club Fed, the Joint. But this isn't just any prison. Here's how to survive in the most dangerous prison. For every 100,000 residents in the United States, 698 of them are incarcerated. That's more people per capita than in any other nation. Most of the world's prison population is held in the US, China, Brazil, and Russia. And now you've joined this notorious group. So what's next? Should you join a gang? Why is making eye contact dangerous? Outside these walls, an everyday life awaits you. But to get there, you need to survive by following these steps. Step 1, be alert and trust your instincts. Suppose you're in Black Dolphin Prison in Russia. In that case, you'll be in close quarters with 700 serial killers, child molesters, and even cannibals. And when it comes to dangers and interactions, trust your gut and be extra cautious. The first few days, or even months of your prison sentence will probably be your worst. Learn to control your emotions. If you don't, other inmates can use them against you. It could give them leverage to intimidate, provoke, or take advantage of you. And step 2, do not stare. Be mindful when you're making eye contact with other inmates. This is especially important in overcrowded and hostile prisons. Imagine yourself in La Sabaneta prison in Venezuela. It has 25,000 prisoners, but unfortunately, it only has the capacity for 15,000, so you're packed in like sardines. And personal space is non-existent. The way you look at someone can easily be misinterpreted in prison. As you walk around, keep your eyes forward and do not stare at anybody. This step might not apply as much in your cell because you must get along with your cellmates if you are sharing. Be respectful of their boundaries and personal belongings. And try to listen more and talk less. Offer to clean around the cell and be friendly. Do not ask other inmates why they're in prison. This can cause anger, and you might not like what that leads to. But if you're asked why you ended up in prison, answer honestly. Step 3, work on yourself. Use this time to study and get in shape. Exercising will keep you healthy, and staying fit will make you look disciplined and strong. Eat healthy food if you can get it. As an inmate, you will have to eat the meals served to you at the cafeteria. If the prison has a commissary, try to buy a few of your weekly meals there. Hopefully, you can find some healthier options. But if you're in Bang Kwang Central Prison in Thailand, remember that it's one of the world's harshest prisons. Not only is it known for shackling prisoners, but it has a class system to get access to food. So to be safe, you might want to drink lots of water and stay hydrated. You should seek out different ways to improve your mental health, advance your education, or even learn a new skill. This could mean learning how to meditate. Nothing says don't mess with me like someone in the lotus position. Okay, maybe you should hold off on the meditation thing for now. Step 4, stay away from drugs and gangs. If you're caught doing drugs, more time could be added to your sentence. You could find yourself stuck in solitary confinement, or even worse, sent to an even more dangerous prison. Do not join a gang. While this may sound like a good idea, you may find yourself involved in violent and severe situations just because you're incarcerated. The most notorious prison riot in U.S. history was the Attica riot in 1971, when 39 guards and prisoners were killed. But you do need to make some friends, so find a few other inmates you feel comfortable with and hang out with them. But be smart about it. If you get into trouble, this group of friends could be your only help. The 1992 Carandiru massacre in Brazil caused 111 deaths. It's also known as one of the worst documented human rights violations of the prison system. Step 5, keep in touch with the outside world. Keep communicating with your family and friends. This can be uplifting for you and your loved ones. If you're in a restrictive or less progressive prison, it's likely you won't be able to contact your family. Remember to let your loved ones know of this situation as soon as possible so they understand your circumstances. Approximately 600,000 convicts are released from prison each year in the U.S., and your turn will come. Okay, you survived some of the toughest prisons in the world, but the guards aren't done with you just yet. Now you're getting transferred to one of the most isolating places in the world, a supermax prison. ADX Florence Supermax was home of Ted Kaczynski, a domestic terrorist who led a 17-year bombing campaign. Eric Rudolph, the man who carried out the 1996 Summer Olympics bombing, is also incarcerated here. You've been able to survive prison so far, but is your mind strong enough to prevent hallucinations? Can you handle being trapped in a room by yourself for years on end? So don't shut the door behind you. This freezing cell, a maximum of 2.1 by 3.6 meters, could be your home for the rest of your life. The only natural light is slivers that come through a small, thin window. And the only people you'll talk to will be in your dreams, or should I say, nightmares. A supermax prison. United States Prison Florence ADMAX, sometimes called ADX, is one of the most impenetrable prisons in the world. Also known as the Alcatraz of the Rockies, this prison is near the Rocky Mountains in Colorado. Its dreaded H unit, or Special Security Unit, is one of the most restrictive and hardest to survive. Since ADX opened in 1994, at least 6 prisoners have committed suicide. No one has successfully escaped this prison. In this unique administrative maximum security prison, you stay in your cell for almost 23 hours each day. The only hour that you'd be allowed outside would be in a recreation cage. How can you prevent hallucinations? Why should you quit consuming sugar? What is one thing you should never do in this prison? Step 1, don't let your brain shrink. Supermax prisons are known for putting inmates in borderline torturous solitary confinement. Researchers state that the stress caused by confinement can shrink parts of the brain that are responsible for memory and controlling emotions. If you develop spiritual strength, it may help give you a sense of purpose, finding a religious faith, becoming more devout, or taking strength from other belief systems can help you cope with your life in prison. Step 2, keep to yourself. Remember, snitches get stitches, and in maniacs, you'll be within feet of some of the most notorious and dangerous criminals alive. That includes Barry Mills, the leader of the Aryan Brotherhood, and notorious Mexican cartel leader El Chapo. Maybe solitary confinement doesn't sound so bad with these despicable neighbors. But whenever you're allowed any brief form of socialization, it's best to mind your own business. The one thing you should never, ever do in prison is give information on other inmates to the guards and authorities. Step 3, develop a routine. One of the best things you can do to stay sane in Supermax is to avoid stress. I know it sounds impossible given the conditions, but you can develop strategies to relieve your stress. Building a routine and sticking to it might do the trick. Shuha Graham was wrongfully convicted and found solace in routine while on death row in San Quentin prison. She woke up at 5 a.m. every day and exercised. Then Graham sponged himself clean. Later in the day, he meditated. That kept him going until he was exonerated and released in 1981. Step 4, keep daydreaming. Life in a Supermax prison will not be the life you dreamed about, but that doesn't mean you should quit dreaming. Michael Jules served 40 years in prison, including 7 years in solitary confinement. He used to kill time for hours by working out detailed visualizations of himself in a vivid alternate reality where he could enjoy being in open spaces and talking with people. Creating mental images can stimulate certain parts of the brain that help with mental activities, abstract thoughts, and motor control. You might even imagine things that feel real. Step 5, don't eat sugar. Mental illness is common among incarcerated people. Around 55% of male and 73% of female inmates in the U.S. suffer from some form of it. Adding solitary confinement to the mix only worsens these conditions. 3/4 of all isolated prisoners report symptoms of psychosis, such as hallucinations. Some inmates pass the time by eating junk food, but don't do that. While comfort food might provide momentary relief from your reality, those sugar-driven endorphins will only worsen any symptoms of mental illness that you have. Your vitamin and mineral levels could get low since they come from whole foods. Experienced inmates recommend that you do your best to stay healthy. You survived a Supermax prison. As you behaved so well, you were transferred to a less restrictive facility. But it is crowded, and it's easy to run afoul of the wrong people. The prison breaks are so intriguing that they made an entire show about it. Did you know that Ted Bundy escaped from prison not once, but twice? And prisoners in the past have managed to create tools from their cells, smuggle things from outside, and damage fences enough to escape. Think you're ready to break out? Let's see if you have what it takes, Michael Schofield. You're an inmate in prison, and a riot breaks out in the lunchroom. Other inmates are hoping to overthrow the guards and escape. Everyone is pushing and shoving, and the situation is out of control. How can you stay safe? Then break. The United States has the world's highest ratio of incarcerated individuals at 724 inmates per 100,000 people. When a riot starts, you must decide what your course of action will be. In the midst of absolute chaos, and whether you are an inmate or a guard, your life is at risk. If you are indecisive, you leave yourself open to getting hurt, caught, or killed. Is it a good idea to be armed? Where would be the best place to be? Should you call for help? Step 1, fight or fold. Whether you are a guard or an inmate, if you are in immediate danger, assess the situation and figure out what you're going to do. If you fight your way through the prison break, you might be able to avoid being ganged up on and survive with only some scrapes and bruises. This might mean trying to remember all the Jackie Chan movies you watched in your life. Or you could give up if more than one person is attacking you. Letting yourself be caught might save your life. Step 2, hide. Whether you are a guard or an inmate, hiding until the chaos dies down would be a good idea. If you were a guard, it might not be the most beautiful thing to do, but your life and safety are more important. And as an inmate, you could hide in your cell. You'd lose a chance to escape, but you'd probably be safe that way. Step 3, escape. There will always be more inmates than guards. So if you get a chance to run away without severely injuring yourself, do it. I mean, you're not digging a tunnel underneath the prison to escape like El Chapo, and this might be your one and only chance. You can increase your chances of escaping by teaming up with others. However, if you choose to escape, make sure that you do not get caught, as it will leave a permanent mark on your record. And remember, some prisons use radio frequency ID tracking tags to keep tabs of inmates. Step 4, cry for help. It sounds very cliche, but crying for help and then attacking the guard who comes to help you might give you a window of opportunity to escape the chaos inside the prison walls. Otherwise, if you cry for help during a prison riot, you might just be helped by a guard and be able to avoid being punished for taking part in planning or even participating in the riot. But no matter what. Step 5, do not use a gun. As an inmate, your first thought might be to overpower a guard and take their gun. But that would prove to be deadly to you. Once you are identified as carrying a weapon, you'll become a target for the other guards. They'll shoot you in self-defense, putting you at an even higher risk. In 1971, during a 4-day revolt in the U.S. Attica Correctional Facility, 1,281 inmates held 39 guards and employees as hostages. When the negotiations failed, the mayor of New York gave an ultimatum to resolve the issue. The people in here are treated like dogs, and we're going to get what we can, or we're going to die trying. It ended with 29 hostages and 10 inmates dead, and 89 people wounded. In many countries, there probably wouldn't be a major prison break. The ratio of attempted escapes per number of inmates has drastically decreased in the past 20 years, and some prisons use advanced technology to make it more difficult for inmates to escape. Finally, after years of mental and physical torture, you escaped prison and made it out alive. But your work's not over yet. Now that you're a successful escapee, every cop and FBI agent in the area is on the lookout for you. Hopefully you get lucky and can stay out of jail for the rest of your life. John Dillinger, known as Public Enemy #1, died in a shootout with the FBI just months after his escape.